Hello everybody, welcome back to another video. Hope you guys are all having a fantastic day. Today's upload is going to be about the potential for a northeast snowstorm. So I know many people who live in the northeast have been wanting the snow, wanting the winter to come back because there's been a snow drought in the northeast and much of the nation actually is in a snow drought. Maybe just not the west. But the upper plains have been getting a little bit of more snow now, but the northeast have been getting absolutely nothing. So potentially a snowstorm coming in, so we'll discuss about that. Another thing I'd like to mention is if you haven't subscribed yet to this channel, consider doing so. Helps me out in many sort of ways, so consider doing that. Gets this video out to more video people, and consider doing that. So right now we're looking at this fairly significant storm, but there's not a lot of snow associated with this. There's quite a bit of rain on the southern side. There's quite a bit of snow on the northern side, but the sorry, I'm getting over a small cold. And but the northern side is mainly way up in Canada where it's actually cold enough for snow. Then we get a little disturbance coming across, a short wave coming across through the west and into the Midwest, and then this starts developing into its own little low pressure, and it could bring quite a bit of snow actually to Maine, New Hampshire, Vermont, and into New York, upstate New York. So several inches is possible, but that's still not the snowstorm we were talking about. The next part which I was talking about or the storm that I was talking about, is this storm right here. So see this low pressure starting to form, and what it does is it converts its energy again into the south, or I should say it spreads its energy into the south, while there's a slight clipper to the north, and this little system will combine with this, and whether it does to the full extent, you could see it sort of phases together. We'll see how much snow falls across these areas, but at this point it seems fairly likely for the south to see a snowstorm, or I should say more in the areas that have not seen a lot of snow this year. So southern Illinois, southern Indiana, Missouri, around St. Louis, definitely seeing quite a bit of snow with this. And both models, the European and GFS, are agreeing on the snow around St. Louis, but not necessarily the snow in the Northeast. As you can see, the GFS is fairly robust, showing a coastal system starting to develop, and it shows very heavy snow amounts if we were to go to the total snowfall. And this is not the test run GFS, which I do prefer the test run, but you could see, I'll show you that in just a minute, but you could see with this, up to half a foot, if not more, up to a foot in some locations in Missouri and around southern Illinois. And then when we go to the northeast, move over, we could see over a foot in areas like New Jersey, New York, and Boston with this storm. This is just from this one storm alone, other than upstate the northeast where it's from that first one which I showed you a couple of minutes ago. So let's go to the FV3 GFS model and let's see what it has to say compared to the regular GFS. This is the test run of the GFS. I call it basically the better version. It will get replaced, the GFS, by this one very soon, and we are seeing that they're showing very much more snow across the south into Missouri, Illinois, Arkansas, Oklahoma. Not so much here in the north, and not so much here in the northeast. So let's just go through this. Again, I'm sorry, I'm getting over a small cold, but so sorry about all the sniffling. But let's go back to our 100, where this storm will start getting its act together. You can see the FE3 GFS doesn't really have these two systems combining, so it doesn't mean a lot of snow for the Wisconsin, northern Illinois, Iowa area, but it means still quite a bit for the southern Indiana, basically the whole state of Indiana, in Illinois, and then Missouri's. So we look into Ohio, also seeing quite some snow, and then into this moves off, but you can see it doesn't really make a hook or doesn't really hug the coastline like the other one. It kind of just zones off into the ocean, leaving some light snow to cities like New York and Boston and states like Connecticut and Rhode Island, but not as much snow as a GFS model was showing with the regular GFS was showing. So let's go to the Canadian model and let's see what it's starting to brew up for this area, for this storm. Most models are agreeing that something is starting to act up around this time frame. So we are at hour 84, 102. You can see the Canadian definitely does not have these two systems connecting, and so this leaves Iowa, Illinois, and southeastern Wisconsin on the blank and not seeing much snow. And then the system, but it's way far to the south. I mean, look how far to the south that is. Still has quite a bit of snow for the northeast because it eventually goes up the east coast. That's what it's predicting to do. And again, it's a little bit closer. That means Boston, the coastal areas, would see more rain. They would see some snow on the backside, but this would be more of an inner, or I should say, inner upstate northeast into the inner parts of the northeast, more of a snowstorm. I mean, you can see it gets massive once it gets up there, but not necessarily for the coastal areas. Still, let's look at the snowfall accumulations. Still fairly hefty with them, especially again towards Maine and Vermont, New Hampshire. You could see 20, 30 inches of snow, definitely not out of the question, and still showing quite a bit of snow into Missouri, southern Illinois, and into Virginia, North Carolina, and West Virginia, seeing quite a bit of snow with this. So let's quickly now go to the European model. This is the European model for the next 10 days where the storm will occur. And this snow is from these couple of storms that will be coming in the next couple of days, so ignore that. But mainly what we see is the snow here in southern Missouri, northern Arkansas, maybe into Oklahoma. The European model isn't agreeing with this, but it definitely could change. And then into Illinois around St. Louis. So potentially up to half a foot of snow is possible. It doesn't have as much snow up further to the north. You could see maybe an inch by Chicago, Iowa City, Quad Cities, maybe two. Kansas City, like an inch, 2 inches. And a little bit less here in Indiana, but a little bit more in southern Indiana. However, it does have very minimal amounts for the coast of New York. You could see, I should say, the coast of Northeast, and including cities like New York, maybe half an inch. Boston, maybe closer to an inch, 2 inches. And the reason for that is it only starts developing once it's off coast, and you could see it's way offshore. This is where the heaviest snow falls, right out here, almost 17, almost like 1.5 feet of snow, and impacting areas like Newfoundland and Labrador. So will this still change? We don't know. The European model is typically good with nor'easters, typically has a better handle on them than most models. So the European may be onto something here, that just the snow system down here, not really the northeast. We'll just have to watch and wait for this. But I would say that at this point, I'm at least moderately confident that a snowstorm will be occurring that will be bringing especially snow to the southern Illinois and Missouri area. That seems all the models, the Canadian, the two types of the GFS, and the European model seem to be all agreeing on the potential for a significant storm or significant snow dumping on the Missouri and southern Illinois area. So let's quickly go to the National Weather Service, the Weather Ready Nation map. I think that's what it is. And this is the only main threat I would say for the Midwest is the high winds. There will be extremely high winds for the next couple of days. So if you live in Northwest Iowa, I know I always have a friend that asks for high winds. You have a wind advisory right now. So unfortunately, not accompanied with much snow at all, but definitely gusty winds. Let's just click on a random county in Northwest Iowa, and for over the past couple of hours, they have been going up um, extremely vigorously. The National Weather Service offices have been posting wind advisories for the past couple of hours across much of the plains. You could see that it has already a section in southeastern Dakota, southwestern Minnesota, and northwestern Iowa, and then one by the Chicago metropolitan area, and then one here right by northeastern Iowa and southeastern Minnesota. The other threat will be the freezing rain and sleet and wintry mess in the northeast with all these winter weather advisories. And then it's still that winter storm going on in the west, producing some significant amounts of snow. So let's quickly now go back to the NAM. The NAM is typically fairly good with temperatures, maybe a little bit has a cold bias. But let's go to the 2 meter temperature anomalies and let's see what we can expect with temperatures in the next 84 hours. Let's go back to hour zero because that's where we are right now. Very above average temperatures. I mean, I stuck my head out the window today and it was so freaking warm, guys. Feels like if it was spring or even summer. It's literally so warm in across much of the country. I mean, some of these temperatures are that's 20 to 30 degrees above average right there. And then we get that cool shot of air. You can see nothing significant, but it definitely is there enough to produce maybe a couple of uh, snow systems like that one that we were talking about going up that east coast, and especially affecting the northeast, this cold shot, and the southeast, not so much the central plains. And then if we were to go into the long range outlook, let's go to the FV3 GFS. The FV3 GFS is showing some moderate warming again. You can see some red, but still fairly chilly across the northeast, stays fairly chilly that way. And then a little bit warmer conditions come through, which we have been seeing for a long time, and then maybe a big cool off, which we will just have to wait and see, guys. The models have been advertising this for a very long time, but have never really come to actually. This has never really come to happen. But if we were to look at the Northeast, if you live in Northeast, cool temperatures for sure for you guys. It seems for the next several days. Even though the rest of the country may be warm, you could see right here, it's just persistent and doesn't go away. Especially the farther in or the farther in the Northeast you go, farther inland. So hopefully you enjoyed, guys. Hopefully you learned something new. So we'll just have to keep an eye on the storm and see what it does. At this point, it does seem my greatest area of confidence is right here in southern Missouri, southern Illinois, and into Kentucky and southern Indiana. But again, as we go on into the Northeast, we see New York, Boston, Philadelphia, DC, all those cities could be seeing snow with the system, but not all the models are agreeing, and there's a great amount of uncertainty. So stay tuned, and I'll catch you all guys in the next episode. See ya.